All right, welcome back to Day to Day with Greg Michelson. I'm here with Julien Simon, a very famous person in the AI space. Someone that I've been excited to talk to for the last couple of weeks, and he's finally here. So welcome, Julien.
Thank you, Greg.
And famous is a good word, right? Would you describe yourself
I
as
don't know.
famous?
Yeah, well, I mean, I try to do my job. I try to be helpful. Um, if you mean I have a lot of content out there, yeah, okay, I'll take that. I've been doing that for a few years now. Um, but yeah, I'm just a software engineer trying to figure things out with an aging brain. And trying to explain stuff to everybody else out there. That's about it.
Yeah, I think you were an evangelist before it was kind of cool to be an evangelist, huh? How did you make the segue from software engineering to
Yeah.
evangelism?
Well, that's quite a story. So, I mean, I was a software engineer for I don't know 12 years or something, and then started managing teams. The whole CTO VPN thing, and did that in a bunch of startups here in Paris, and had good fun doing it until that became just a day job, and I felt I was losing touch with my initial passion for tech and building and cracking things open and understanding how they work or don't work and trying to put them together again. um, and I was spending way too much time in budget meetings and HR meetings and whatnot, right? And babysitting Gen Z engineers. Sorry. I'm famous for being blunt, so get ready
Well,
for that.
good. That makes for a good podcast.
And I thought, well, I want to go back to a more hands-on role. I want to be involved on a daily basis again with code and platforms, etc. And I was an AWS customer at the time. My team had just completed an all-in migration from a physical data center to AWS. So, I guess I was on the radar. And I actually got to speak at a bunch of AWS events, actually sharing the stage with Werner at the Paris Summit. That was fun. Uh, and so, long story short, we started speaking, and they said, we're hiring a tech evangelist for France. And I tell them, nah, go away. That sounds horrible. Sounds like marketing. Like I'm a geek. I'm a techie. I'm a CTO. Why would I ever be that? Especially since you're telling me it is actually part of AWS marketing. Not their strongest function, by the way. Um, and uh, and I told them no 19 times, I guess. And then they did the right thing, which was, hey, one of our senior evangelists is actually in Paris for a few days. Don't you want to have a drink with him, have a coffee? And I said, yeah, okay. I guess they bullied me until I said yes. And I met the guy, and it was great. And he actually opened my eyes to the fact that the role was 50% CTO, 50% I guess senior solution architect, and that I would actually be expected to be very much hands-on. And I thought, yeah, okay, why not? How many budget meetings can you do? I got tired of that. And so I joined them and did that for 6 years, had a lot of fun, traveled the world, then joined Hugging Face for 3 years as chief evangelist, then joined RCAI for a year and a half, again as chief evangelist. So yeah, overall about 10 years as a tech evangelist. And yeah, that was good fun. And then okay, it was time to close that chapter and do something else again. Um, but yeah, and I guess the highlight was getting to work with folks like Jeff Barr, the chief evangelist at AWS. And I went from, reading Jeff Barr blog posts in 2011, 2012 to actually working with him on blog posts. And That was that, and meeting him many times, working with him. So yeah, it was great. I learned a lot, and generally was a great way to kind of flip the story on building with tech. Instead of just building something and hoping that people use it, it was like, okay, the service teams build something. How do I show the value to customers? How do I explain customers what they can do with it? And am
is
I
that
convinced
primarily
they actually get value from it? And if not yet, let's yell a little bit at the service team. That
so is
was
that was that the primary job of the evangelist? Like, give us what was a week like for you doing those jobs at AWS and RC and
so I
Hadoop?
think it's I keep describing it as, getting paid to waste a ton of time figuring things out so that folks don't have to. And to me, let me explain, that's infinite ROI, so that's why you should all hire evangelists, I mean, good ones, um, because those folks have infinite ROI. And the reason why they have infinite ROI is because if I spend, 100 hours banging my head on an AWS service or Hugging Face library, and hitting every problem on the way, which I seem to be amazing at. That's my superpower, falling into every trap. Um, but then, surviving it and writing a blog post or writing code or recording a YouTube video that summarizes those 50 or 100 hours into, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, and having thousands, if not tens of thousands of folks following the safe path to, oh, okay, I get what this thing is, I get what I can do with it, and here's a notebook or a GitHub repo I can use. Then, okay, those people save probably less than 100 hours because they're probably faster than I am, but let's say they save 10 hours each. So I wasted 50 hours, I saved the community thousands and thousands of hours. That's pretty close to infinite ROI. And that was my
Yeah.
job satisfaction. No, really, that was it.
Yeah. What's the most viral post you ever made?
Oh, so I had an interesting time at AWS because I was potentially the first AWS employee to have a high profile blog outside of AWS, which almost got me fired, constantly. Because AWS PR would chase me and say, no, you're breaking every single PR policy, and I would say, yeah, but hey, um, I want to put content out there. It's kind of my job, right? And if I go through your blogs, it takes me 6 months because your process is broken in so many ways. So sorry, but you're literally standing in the way of me doing my job and helping people out, right? So no, and unfortunately, my managers were providing air cover. And then Jeff Barr started providing air cover, which pretty much solves the story for me. And thank you again, Jeff. But yeah, I had some very successful posts. I mean, on the AWS blogs. But I think probably I had more views when I was writing my own and just moving a little bit outside the PR comfort zone in terms of benchmarking, for example. AWS teams hate benchmarks. And I remember once I did what I call the big data battle, where I actually compared, Spark on EMR to Redshift to Athena to another one that I don't remember right now. But anyway, in terms of speed, in terms of throughput, I actually had a cool benchmark and all. And this one drove them mad. I got monster views because that's exactly the information that folks want. You have so many services on AWS, and I guess Google and Azure are the same, right? I mean, like there's a lot of options, and which one works best in this particular scenario. So benchmarking and was good, and I got a ton of views for that, and I got a ton of I guess pointy emails from, AWS general managers and VPs telling me, and then I would tell them, listen, if that's how it is, then how about I stop talking about your service forever, which drove more angry emails. But I mean, some of them eventually understood. Yeah, okay. And by the way, cool benchmark can you actually share the scripts?
Yeah.
But there was kind of this, Pavlov's dog reaction, which is inevitable in big tech because people are, trained and formatted in a certain way, and I guess they never fully formatted me, but I mean, yeah, that's the kind of content, like that's a shame, right? The most useful stuff that customers want, which is an honest, candid view on services. This is cool, this isn't, but it will be cool in the next iteration. I wasn't
Yes.
mouthing anything. It's like, this
Sure.
isn't ready yet. Like, this is the safe zone. This is not so great. So I would stick to that. Like, okay, I never wanted to drink the Kool-Aid, right? So doing the right thing for the customer means, showing them what is great and what isn't.
Hmm.
And to be honest with you, there are some services I never ever covered, or some launches I refuse to cover. And please ask, someone else to cover, because I felt honestly they were shit. And I didn't want my name on those blog posts.
Right. So is that the key to getting people to like your content, is just being
Yes.
actually useful?
Yes, being honest. Being truthful. And no, I mean, I think I've always been a loyal employee, right? In every company I worked at. Anyone disagrees, I don't care. But there's also values, right? There's first principles that are fundamental. And as a professional, as an engineer, I will not compromise over certain things. No, sorry. I don't care who's paying my bills and my salary. Some things I will not do. So as a tech evangelist, again, you're on this pedestal, by design, which I always disliked. I hate it when people say guru, rock star, whether they talk about me or anybody else. I mean, Ozzy Osbourne is a rock star. I'm a tech guy, right? But hey, you're in the limelight, so it's very easy to use that influence to sell stuff, right? To start pitching stuff that isn't really awesome, and that you wouldn't use as a customer, and that you wouldn't build in your platform, right? And that was my benchmark. That was, hey, as a customer, as a CTO, would I actually be happy about having this thing in my platform, in my product? Would it actually help, or would it be just, somebody needed to launch a service to beef up their promo doc, and there it goes, right? And this is really just, this will just disappear in the sands of time. It's useless, or it's not solving any real problem. So yeah, I think that's what, I've tried to stay loyal to my employers, but more importantly, I've tried to stay loyal to my first principles and values, and I tried never to forget that I could have, a lot of positive influence on people reading or watching my content, but it would also be very easy to have toxic influence and to become just a mouthpiece, which hopefully I tried never to be. And I think that's what people keep, hopefully some people keep following me, because, of course, PR rules and reviews, etc. Now, I mean, I'm more of a free agent than I ever was, so that's gonna be, and expect some fireworks. But okay, there's a fine line, but don't betray the trust that people put in you. If you watch 30 minutes of me doing stuff on YouTube, that's time commitment. You need to get something out of it. and you, if you feel betrayed because it's all, honestly, it's all crap, or yeah, the demo is shiny, but the the reality sucks. You're never gonna come back to it again, and that's not what I want. I want to be there forever.
Now, you were at RC before your current thing, and I do
Yeah,
want to come and
sure,
talk
of
about
course.
what you're up to these days. But as an evangelist, right? Maybe explain just the 60-second pitch on what RC is, just to give people some background.
Sure. So RC started was started by a bunch of folks coming from Hugging Face. So that's the connection. I knew them from before, as well as a former RoboFlow employee, and they were all believers in the fact that you can get a ton of value with open source models, open weight models, right? So even back then, we saw that you could outperform, let's say, GPT-3.5 with a well-tuned Llama model or a well-tuned Mistral model. And, we were doing it at Hugging Face, and Hugging Face had less of an enterprise focus than some of us wanted. And I guess that was the goal of RC, try to actually bring high quality post-trained models to enterprise users. And then they started building foundation models. So starting last summer, um, they're now releasing net new foundation models, which they fully pre-train and post-train with a very strong focus on data quality for enterprise workloads. Okay, so if you want to write poetry, cooking recipes, and whatnot, go use Llama 3. If you want to do enterprise work, if you want to do math and coding and problem solving and across finance, telco, healthcare, etc. The real stuff. RC models are built specifically for that. And they've announced. So we're recording on January 22nd. Just so you know, if you're watching this later. But they will release amazing model in the next couple of weeks at most. It's all public information. And it's called Trinity Large. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be one of the largest and best open source models ever built and ever
Hmm.
released. So keep an eye
Hmm.
out for that. And go
Have you
check.
done
They have some smaller models that are really, really great as well.
Trinity Large, as you said the name?
Yes. They released Trinity Mini, which is a 26 billion mixture of experts model, which is awesome. I'm running it on my Mac, quantized with Llama CPP as a local option. It's really good. It's a reasoning model. You know, it's everything that you want from a model, a local model. But they're upping the ante, and they're releasing this multi-hundred billion parameter model, which should make a lot of waves, a lot
How
of
does it
waves.
compare with? Do you know how it compares with, say, GPT-5 or Gemini?
We'll
Or
see.
yeah,
But
not
yeah,
released
that
yet.
the target is really. The frontier models, will still be the frontier models. But as we know, they're expensive, and they create, I guess, privacy and compliance concerns, IP concerns. Not so much in the US, but in Europe, and the rest of the world. The world is complicated right now, and there are a lot of folks out there who would prefer to self-host models instead of calling Anthropic or OpenAI or Google APIs. And I think that Trinity Large Model is going to be an answer to that. And of course, you could, working with RC, you could, if needed, specialize it for your particular domain, and even outperform the frontier models. So yeah, it's an interesting, it's a very bold move, but it's an interesting move. So yeah, let's see what happens in the next couple of weeks. Trinity Large, RCAI, check them out.
Hmm. Now I'm curious about you as a content creator, someone who's writing content and producing really solid technical content for folks, for technical people, over the years that you were at RC, that's when the, and I suppose at Hugging Face too, that's when the large language models really came out. How have you seen the landscape of content change as these large language models have kind of like overcome everybody?
Yeah, I mean it's a good point, and it's, as always, checks and balances. So there's a flood of horrible AI generated content. And I'm not on Instagram, I'm not on TikTok. I don't have time for that. I'm not interested. Um, but I see some of it. Even YouTube, is getting heavily polluted with AI generated videos and AI generated interviews, etc. You think you're watching a Warren Buffett or listening to a Warren Buffett interview, and it's actually some AI voice reading a Warren Buffett report or something, and that's bad, I think, and they're not straightforward about it. So that's you know, there's good stuff, there's fun stuff. Some of those deep fakes are hilarious. Some of them are scary. Right. Looks like the world cannot get enough of Macron with his sunglasses, and that's great. Let's keep making fun of him. But some other stuff is concerning, and when it comes, of course, to written content, um, if you use it right, I mean, if you use it for research or fact checking or just writing a first version of your post or story or whatever, boilerplate, and then adding your own twist to it, that's okay. And I use it. I think I use Claude a lot. I think the research capabilities are really, really great. I use that to also fact check what I'm writing. Because I'm reading stuff here and there, and of course I know what I know, but I don't know what I don't know, and sometimes I know stuff which is plain wrong or outdated. So I think this is great. Using that assistant as an expert, investigation journalist to keep me in line is good. Um, just generating everything and without reading it and putting your name on it, which we see a lot of, is just bad. I think it's just bad. I think people like to read my stuff because I have my own tone, my own voice, my own snark, um, sometimes, and facts are facts, but why do you go and read this particular paper? Because there's this editor, and you've been following them for 10 years, and you like how they write, and you like how they think, and maybe they're funny, etc. So that's what you want, right? It's not just the facts, it's the tone, it's the style. So yeah, I think if you have that, you can keep writing, and using AI is great to again take your writing to the next level, which I'm trying to do. But yeah, if it's just slop, which is the common word, it's bad, right? And you see a lot of marketing stuff. Just it's clearly written by AI, and it's it's all buzzwords, and it makes no sense whatsoever. And well, I mean, you know, too bad for them. It's not. It's ineffective. So if they want to do that, fine.
Yeah. Well, there is this point of view that you generating content isn't for people to read it. It's just for the crawlers to see it, for search engines and large language models and
Well,
such.
that's the big problem with hiring right now. It's if you do your best to write a resume that you and I would like, because we're humans and we're looking for certain things, and okay, maybe we're looking for particular experiences or particular a particular way of presenting. That's fine, but the problem is that if you post all those job posts on LinkedIn, let's say, they get thousands of applicants, and of course you've got AI scoring and ATS, etc. And they're not looking for the same thing. So now there's a whole mo- move to, okay, how do we write CVs that will actually pass those AI filters
Yeah. Yeah.
so that we do get a chance to get a human review, which to me is completely broken. It's the worst way to hire, and I don't know that you're getting the best candidates, and for candidates it's just a horrible experience, to apply and never get any answer, and you have folks spamming those job posts with their CVs, and I mean, you got to do what you got to do to get a job. I get it, but yeah, that system is broken. So yeah, that needs to be fixed. There's room for a smart hiring tech startup out there. Come on, please. You know, go and build that, because how we're doing it these days is completely broken.
Well, are you interested in chess at all? Because chess is fascinating, the way that that sort of sector has developed. Because chess is basically solved at this point, and the AIs are remarkably, impossibly better than the best human could ever be. And so, watching chess has become, for me, really interesting, because they have announcers now, and the announcers, of course, have the chess computers open, and they can say, "Oh, Magnus Carlsen, the best chess player alive, he just made this move, but the best move was actually this one." And I think we're approaching that in terms of like content and writing and stuff, where we might have to think about that differently. So we're not at the place where large language models can write better than we can, right? A technical expert is always going to be able to produce better content today than a large language model conceivably could, if not from a technical standpoint, at least from a readability and interesting
Yeah,
standpoint.
and again, I
Uh,
think it comes to trust. I mean, I've been in tech 30, oh my God, 30 plus years. I've got scars, I've got medals. Um, I had some successes, I have some, horrible defeats, made some mistakes, but I interacted with tens of thousands of people over those years. Um, and that's very rich, and I distilled that into, um, some beliefs and memories, and again, first principles. And I think there's value in that. You know, there's value in that. So now, would GPT-7 be the ultimate CTO in every single situation, given the right context, etc.? Probably. But at the end of the day, and maybe, maybe I'm getting too old for this, but I still want to talk to humans. I want human doctors. I want human salespersons when I need them. I want, etc., etc. So when it comes to accountability and trust, etc., um, I think human experience at the moment, for now, cannot be discounted. How long that lasts is an interesting discussion. I was in San Francisco just last week. I'm still horribly jet lagged. Hopefully, you can't sit too much. I took a Waymo for the first time.
oh,
Yeah, I finally found the time to take a Waymo. That's how busy I am when I get to the Bay Area. And I was, of course, blown away. I didn't want the ride to end. I was hoping the car would actually take all the funny streets just to check how it would react. Um, and that was great. That was great. I felt very safe. And then I flew back to Paris, and I realized, would I trust a plane with no pilot for 11 hours? Right now I'm going to say no, but 5 years ago, I would have told you I would never trust a car without a driver.
Well, yeah, I actually
It's
had
been-
a pilot friend who was telling me that these big planes have been able to land themselves safely for
Yes,
like 15, 20 years.
absolutely. If the yeah, I'm an aircraft enthusiast. So yeah, if the airport is properly equipped, if they have ILS and all the cool smart stuff, which they used to land, in the fog and when the conditions are horrible. I mean, you still land, right? Unless there's a meter of snow on the runway. But if it's just poor visibility, you still land and you're okay, right? Yeah, so those planes can just land completely on their own. If you want to know, takeoff is the most dangerous bit. I guess the first 90 seconds are or first 2 minutes are the really most dangerous ones because there's a certain velocity after which the
Point of no
plane
return.
has to take off,
Yes.
right? So it could be on fire. It has to take off. So if you're scared flying, the good news is you really should only be afraid of the first 2-3 minutes, and then you're totally fine. But
Well, that's
imagine
comforting.
no pilot. We'll get there.
Yeah, no
We'll
question.
get there. I'm curious to see how soon, but we
Hmm.
will get there.
Hmm. Now, it's funny that you say that you want to talk to people because there are certainly lots of times in my life where I would love to not have to talk to people.
Well, it
You know,
depends what
like
kind of people. Yeah, I agree.
yeah, like if refilling a prescription or getting a refund up, like the way Amazon handles refunds, completely peopleless and
Yes.
and amazing. And it's amazing because it works. But there aren't that many venues where a completely peopleless transaction
And to
will
me,
work.
like it's funny you mention it because it's an example I use all the time. I've been ordering for Amazon since I guess 2001, which is I guess the year they launched in France, right? I was early there, and if I never, I didn't do the math, but I think if I looked at my online spend in the last 25 years, I would probably argue that 95 plus percent is on Amazon. And of course I have a lot of options, excluding, phone companies, etc. But
Yeah.
like e-commerce stuff.
Hmm. Hmm.
And the reason for that is because it's painless, you know? Um, I had very few issues ever. When I had issues, they were solved in minutes. If you want to return a product, you get a refund before you even packed, et cetera, et cetera. And that's the moat, that's the Amazon.com, or yeah, I guess the Amazon retail moat is it works. They, contrary to what they say, they don't have the best prices. If you do the homework, you can very often find a cheaper price for whatever you're after. Um, but it's a very high trust business. It just works. You're never ripped off. I mean, I was never ripped off. I had hundreds and hundreds of orders.
Hmm.
And any kind of issue is solved in minutes. So why would you go anywhere else? And to me, that's a very strong lesson.
Yeah, and they have your
It,
billing info and they know your address and the
it
shipping
just
is
works.
fast and free and
That's
so
the
on.
mode, right? That's the mode, and again, we go back to trust. When you trust a service, you love your the doctor, you love your mechanic. Well, I guess you'd never love your lawyer unless you're married to one. But you know what I mean. If you trust someone, and if you have repeated success, doing business with them, you just keep. I mean, there's enough to worry about on a daily basis. You just go back to that person and keep doing business. So taking care of customers and trust, etc., is good. And again, that's where AI has it's a double-edged sword. It can speed up some processes, like I don't know, customer support or the online support, etc. Um, but when it doesn't work, when you're calling that voice server, from the bank or whoever, and you're trying to actually, you want to ask the question to someone, and it doesn't work, and it really rarely works. This is horribly frustrating. Yeah, there's still a lot of, there's still a lot of room for humans. I think automate what can be automated, and give humans more opportunity to practice what they're good at, which is technically, empathy and creativity, and adapting quickly to who you're talking to, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
see, that's just me.
Hmm. So let's shift gears a bit. I'd love to hear what you're doing these days.
But
You've
yeah,
got a you got a new thing happening, huh? Tell us about
yes, I moved to the dark side.
it.
Nah, just so I joined about yeah, 3 months ago now. Um, I long story short, I was very happy at RC, but I was the only guy on that side of the ocean, and my attempts to switch to the other side of the ocean were made particularly difficult by a certain administration.
Ruh-roh.
Um, I don't care about politics. It's just, I guess I rolled the dice and hit the wrong immigration officer, or that person was having a bad day. I don't know. Okay, but
Nice.
that ship has sailed. So I told them, listen, I don't want to be the remote guy forever. That's inefficient. That's frustrating. And so I started looking for another job, and I was on my way to do another one of those VP R&D kind of thing. I had some really, really good conversations. I was close to saying yes to one of those. And then I had the pleasure to speak to an amazing recruiter from the UK, telling me, "Hey, have you ever considered joining a private equity fund?" And I told him, "Well, I'm happy to speak to you, but I think you have the wrong guy. Are you? Is this the right? Are you sure you called the right number? Because that's not me, right? And you can see the pattern. I guess I'm not as open-minded as I would love to think. Saying no to AWS 19 times. I guess I did progress because I didn't tell them no, but I said, I'm curious what this role is, and they say, well, we have there's a private equity fund, and they have portfolio companies, and these companies need to adopt AI across the board, from, I would say, general productivity to, of course, AI assisted engineering and operations to, of course, adding AI features in their platforms, and they think you're the perfect guy for that. And I thought, okay, I'm flattered, but I don't know that I'm the perfect guy. And to me, private equity is finance and banking and et cetera, et cetera. I know nothing about that. And he laughed and he said, yeah, don't worry, they have plenty of those, but they need somebody like you to actually move from brainstorming / PowerPoint iterations to actually getting things done, and engaging with the C-level stakeholders and the engineering teams, and help them get started. And well, that's my sweet spot, right?
So you work with the
Asking
portfolio
for help
companies.
is a really good way for me to say yes. um you know and I said, okay, let me think about it, and then I started talking to some of the partners. Realized how the quality of that team, honestly, I was blown away, how smart those folks are. And then I met the founder, a fascinating gentleman, entrepreneur, who actually for a while worked with Steve Jobs at Next Computer. And all the kids listening, if you don't know what Next Computer is, go check them out. It's the
Are they still
company
around?
Steve Jobs. No, no, no. It's the company that Steve Jobs founded when he left Apple
Yeah, yeah.
in the late 80s. Amazing company, but okay, wasn't too successful. But anyway, he worked with Steve Jobs for a few years, so yeah, he had a few stories to tell, and I mean, we got along really well. And I thought, yeah, okay, let's go do this. And to me, it's a continuation of everything I've done before.
Hmm.
I can leverage my, of course, my CTO experience to have, peer-to-peer conversations with CTOs. I know how difficult it is to do what they do, and I've done it a few times, so it's easy for us to speak. I've dealt with founders and CEOs for a long, long while, so again, I can do that. And I've been an evangelist, so I can explain and demystify and try to shine some light on the righteous path to AI bliss, and help them, not fall into every single pitfall along the way.
Yeah.
And so it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty
Hmm.
cool. I'm having
Nice.
fun. It's a different way of using my experience and my skills, which I need from time to time. I need that. Like apparently every 10 years, I need this big reboot.
So
From
it's a
dev
midlife
to
crisis.
tech leader to tech leader to evangelist, and evangelist to AI operating partner. But hey, that's how I expect to live to 100 years. Not doing the same thing for 50 years. Let's
Sure.
see. Let's see how that works
Sure.
out.
Awesome. Well, hey, this has been a great conversation. Maybe we'll close with a piece of advice. Well, if you had, say, a 16-year-old kid that was
Yeah.
about to graduate high school,
Oh
and
yeah.
they
I
were
have
they
one.
were yeah,
I have
mine
a
just started
16-year-old.
college. So
I have a
if
16-year.
they came to you and said, "Hey, Dad, what I'm interested in data and that space," how would you advise them to pursue that?
So yeah, that's a great question. If you had come to me, I don't know, 6 months ago or a year ago, I would have told you, yeah, go into, you can still go and be a great software engineer. So, you need to learn how to code. And if you don't want to be an engineer, that's okay. If you want to be a doctor, learn to code. If you want to be an architect, learn to code. If you want to be, I don't know, a sales guy, learn to code. If you want to be a lawyer, think again. Um, but now I think I flipped, and I'm not the only one, right? I mean, you probably saw the tweets from Andrei Karpathy saying, that's software engineering as we know it is over. He said something like, I've never felt as inadequate as a programmer. Coming from him, that's pretty funny. The creator of Node.js actually shared something very, very similar just a couple of days ago. Um, and yeah, I think software engineering has changed forever. And I've fully embraced for a while now the trying to fully automate my coding efforts, focusing on specs and focusing on tests, and not focusing on everything in between, which is fully delegated to coding assistants. And I'm building some fairly significant stuff, just letting the AI agents for hours or run loose for hours, and yeah, getting good results in the end. So would I advise a 16-year-old to actually go into a software engineering career now? Probably not. Um, I would encourage them to start coding with AI today, because the cool thing is, if you're 15 or 16, you can build and you have a cool ID, right? Which you tend to have at that age. You can go and build it, and you could be a founder at 16 years old. It's never been easier. It's real. I know some people are skeptical, um, but my best advice to them is please wake up. Please wake up. Like I said, I was in the Bay Area last week. We met with NVIDIA and AWS and OpenAI and Google and a bunch of hot startups, etc. And all of them said our engineers are not coding anymore. It's over.
Hmm.
They're
Hmm.
doing something else. They're still doing tech work, but they're hardly coding anymore.
Yeah. Well, that's
Do not
bleak.
expect to have a career, right?
That's
Even at the
bleak.
elite. Yeah,
Yeah.
even at the elite companies and the elite labs, and I would say especially there. So if you're, if you're not, I mean, some kids are not great in school, and that's okay. We've never needed as many electricians and plumbers as before, right? And you can make very serious money with those jobs, right? You can start a company, and there's this huge deficit of skilled craft people out there. So why not? Go and do that. If you want to go into higher education, um, and you have a scientific mind, go for the hardcore stuff. Okay, go for math, hardcore. Go for material science. Go for deep tech, semiconductors, advanced physics, because we see the acceleration there, right? From again, I mean, space exploration to semiconductors to robotics to drones to all that bleeding edge stuff. I mean, they can hardly find the people they need, and that's going to last for a while.
Yeah,
Uh,
given that you don't really have to know stuff anymore as a student because of these large language models, I think you're right that true experts are going to become much more in demand over the course of the
yeah,
next few
yeah.
years.
So yeah, I think and if you can't do hard science, then I don't know. Be a great teacher. Be a great nurse. My parents were doctors. Be a great doctor. Be a great human. Be great at interacting with humans, because we will still need that. Some business processes will be completely automated, for sure, but human to human, at least for a while, will still matter. Okay. But maybe it's the generational thing. Maybe my kids or my grandkids will be happy to get an advice from a robotic doctor, and get if they need an operation, maybe they'll be happy to have a robotic surgeon. I don't know. Let's see. But or yeah, like I said, you can always be a plumber.
Yeah, exactly.
They
Always going to need running
we
water.
had one in the house not so long ago. It is well, he's not watching that podcast, I'm sure. Is a good guy. Is a good guy, but when I see what he charges, um, and same for the electricians, etc., I realize I'm in the wrong business.
Well, Julien, thanks so much for taking the time. This is a really great conversation.
Thank you, Greg. Thanks,
All right,
everybody.
and best of luck to you in the private equity space.
Yeah, sure.
Can't wait to see your exploits.
Of course.
All right,
Thank
have a great one. Bye
Thanks.
now.